Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nolly Wood Jr., Executive Director of the Mayor's Office on Disabilities. I want to thank you all for coming here today. This is our 2015 Mayor's Accomplishment Meeting, and what makes this meeting special is this is also the week of the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. This event would not be possible without our sponsors. So I would like to ask Mr. Greg Brown, General Manager of the Hilton Baltimore, Mr. Joseph Smith, Johns Hopkins University, and Dr. Michelle Cummings of Bayview Medical Center. Wanted to just say that without our sponsors, this would not have been, event would not have been possible. The sponsorship is critical. We have, thank goodness to Mr. Brown, who did a great job of always giving us the room and also making sure that we have our parking and making it possible for to be here in this wonderful setting every year. But too, clearly, that is not enough. Clearly, with regards to supporting our key event, with regards to the catering and the PowerPoint and other activities, that would not be possible without our keynote sponsors. And with that in mind, I want to introduce Mr. Smith from Johns Hopkins University and Medicine. Say a few words.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wood. On behalf of Johns Hopkins University and Medical System, Ryan Daniels, President of the University, and Paul Rothman, President of the Medical System, I want to say we are delighted to be a part of this event. We recognize the important work of having services for the disabled, and we commend you on all the good work that you all are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Additionally, one of our key sponsors is Bayview Medical Center, and Dr. Burnett, we really appreciate that. So I've been told to slide to the right. Thank you. What I want to do is I want to introduce you to Dr. Michelle Cummings, who's representing Bayview Medical Center, to say a few words as our sponsor.
Thank you, Dr. Wood.
Thank you.
We at Johns Hopkins Bayview, on behalf of Dr. Rick Bennett, our president, as well as Charlie Ruland, our chief executive officer, and Maria Kasalka, our our vice president of patient care services, are proud to continue to support the Mayor's Commission on Disabilities. We've been engaged at a high level for several years, and we continue to plan to do so. Thank you for all of your hard work and the accomplishments of this year. It's incredible.
Thank you. Now I'm going to turn it over to our chair, Lou Ann Blake, who will begin the event and talk about introduction.
Right. Thank you, Nolly. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for being here. My name is Lou Ann Blake. I am with the National Federation of the Blind, which is headquartered here in Baltimore. I am a proud member of the Employment Committee. And so that we all know who else is here today, I'd like to ask everyone to introduce themselves. We'll go around the room. Commission members, please state your name, which organization or councilmanic district you represent, and which committee you are on, and we will start to my right.
Let's go. So, let's start with you.
Oh, start to my left.
Aaron, go ahead, Ms. Lori.
I'm Lori Petray. I'm with the University of Maryland Rehabilitation and Orthopedic Institute.
Erin Kelly from the Enoch Free Library. I'm alternate for the access committee.
Jody Jason with the Baltimore City Recreation and Parks on the access committee. Baltimore 55 Department of Emergency Preparedness.
Joshua Jackson, visual safety.
Crystal Brady, Office of Emergency Management.
Joel Brown, Project Space, Safety.
David Greenberg, the League of People with Disabilities, the Transportation Committee.
Lieutenant Roger Kirsten from the Department of Transportation Safety.
Good afternoon, my name is Jack Dean. I'm with the Housing Authority of Baltimore City, and I'm with co-chair of the city.
Councilman Bob Curran, President of the City Council, and the City Council liaison to the American Commission of Disabilities.
Mark Riccobono, President of the National Federation of the Blind.
Stephanie Rollins Blake, Mayor of the City of Baltimore. Glad to be here, and I also wanted to wish a very happy, and I'm going to say how old you are, Jessica, 30th birthday.
Thank you.
Many of us would like to be celebrating 30.
All right, thank you all so much. Thank you for being here. It's great to have you here. Great to have our mayor here, Councilman Curran, our keynote speaker. We are honored today to have as our keynote speaker Mark Riccobono, who is one of the leading disability rights advocates in the United States today. And I'm going to give us a brief bio of Mark as an introduction. Mark A. Riccobono was elected president of the National Federation of the Blind in July 2014. Prior to becoming president, he served as the executive director of the National Federation of the Blind Jernigan Institute, where he was responsible for the development of many innovative national education and technology programs, such as the National Center for the Blind Youth in Science, Braille Enrichment for Learning and Literacy, and the Blind Driver Challenge. Prior to joining the National Federation of the Blind, Mr. Riccobono participated in the Sears Executive Training Program, was appointed to the Wisconsin Superintendent's Committee on Education and for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and was the first director of the Wisconsin Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired, an agency responsible for statewide services to blind children. In 2010 to 2011, he served as an appointed member of the Federal Commission on Accessible Instructional Materials in Post-Secondary Education. Mr. Riccobono earned an undergraduate degree in Business Administration from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and a graduate degree in Educational Studies from the Johns Hopkins University. Please join me in welcoming the President of the National Federation of the Blind, Mark Riccobono.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I appreciate that introduction. And it is a pleasure to be here today. Nali suggested that I talk about all 25 years of the ADA, as well as the 75-year history of the National Federation of the Blind, but I don't know if I can get all that in today. But it is a pleasure to be here today, and I want to extend my appreciation to the mayor and to this commission for the wonderful work that you're doing to advance opportunities for people with disabilities in the city of Baltimore and beyond. The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. And every day we raise expectations for the blind because we recognize that low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want, and blindness is not what holds you back. And that's essentially what I'm here to talk about today. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk particularly this week when the National Federation of the Blind is in the midst of celebrating its 75th year of being the leading civil rights organization for people who are blind, and on the eve, as was pointed out, of the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, where we have a lot to celebrate, but we also have a lot of work yet to do. I was at the White House on Monday, where the President of the United States expressed the view that we've made a lot of progress, but we still have a lot of work to do in terms of getting employers to recognize that people with disabilities want to participate in society and that they have a lot of value to add. And so I'd urge us to think about that as we come to the 25th anniversary of the ADA later this week. For a little context, the National Federation of the Blind was founded in 1940. And we brought our national headquarters to Baltimore in 1978. And we made a commitment at that time to have Baltimore be our home for coordinating the national civil rights efforts on behalf of people who are blind. And we've been proud to call Baltimore our home since that time. And we have really felt honored that Baltimore has recognized the National Federation of the Blind as being here and being part of the fabric of this community. If you don't know, our headquarters building is on Wells Street. When we moved in 1978, Wells Street in South Baltimore wasn't even paved. So we've seen a lot of history in Baltimore, and we consider ourselves a significant economic contributor in Baltimore today. During the last year, we've had 3,600 people come to our building from almost every state in the nation and at least 8 countries. We are innovating programs that have impact in Maryland, but that also send products really all around the world. I was showing the councilman earlier an iPhone app that we created that allows blind people to snap a picture of any piece of print and read it instantly. And that's because of work that we initiated right here in Baltimore. And we've really made it our goal as being citizens here in Baltimore to also invest in the community. We contribute to the work that happens around our building. In South Federal Hill, it is a different place than when we moved in 1978. It's sort of fashionable to be there now, but when we moved in 1978, it was not. But we contribute to the local Riverside Park and to the neighborhood association. We have a great long-standing relationship with the leadership program, the Greater Baltimore Committee. We've had a number of our executives and members go through the leadership program, and every year we are honored to be part of the program that helps to reframe for the people in the leadership program their understandings or misunderstandings about what the capacity of people who are blind is. And we pull in a number of local nonprofits and for-profits to be part of our mission, but also so that we can add value to what they do. So we're proud of that history. I did mention that we were founded in 1940. And at that time, blindness was not what we know it today, at least in terms of what society expected. At that time, expectations for people who are blind were very low. And in fact, the expectations were really based on the misconceptions that most people had about what was possible for blind people. And consequently, what we had was charitable efforts to help blind people be comfortable. And those charitable efforts, while well-meaning, didn't always point blind people in the direction of high expectation, didn't always point blind people in the direction of full independence, and in many ways were held back by the low expectations. The value that the charitable efforts gave us were not to make us fully independent individuals, but rather to help society feel better about having us around. So the charity model was the model in 1940. When we look around today, because of our work and because of the other great advocates that we have in this room and all across the country, we've really changed the model. We've changed the model to one that is based more on self-determination. In our case, we took a group of blind people who very few people believed in, and we brought blind people to the front to say that we're going to speak for ourselves, and we're going to self-determine our direction and what the horizons look like for us. And that means we raise expectations. It started by raising expectations for ourselves, and then we began raising expectations over the last 75 years for what the rest of society expects of blind people in our communities. And we like to think that we're not done yet, that we're still raising those expectations every day. And today, right here in Baltimore, we're at the center of where a lot of those high expectations are being generated. We're leading the way in that effort, and many people in this room are helping us as partners in that effort. And I think the fact that Baltimore has embraced the work of the National Federation of the Blind and what we've been doing is a key contribution in that overall effort. Now, I say I can't talk about the whole 75 years of our work, but let me talk about the last 11 years, because 11 years ago, 2004, we opened our Research and Training Institute, the Jernigan Institute, on Wells Street, and this was our 21st century forward-looking approach to not only having blind people self-determined, but actually in the center of innovating education, rehabilitation, training, and technology. So 11 years ago, we spearheaded a $20 million capital campaign, which brought a new building to our property in South Baltimore, where we doubled our staff, most of whom live right here in the city and contribute to the city on a daily basis, and again expanded our footprint to bringing people from all around the country to our headquarters in Baltimore to talk about how we innovate opportunities for blind people that have not been developed anywhere else in the world. And I want to talk just for a few minutes about some of the things that we've done in that realm over the last 11 years. One of the most important things that we've worked on is Braille literacy, and Luann mentioned that. Braille is the key to knowledge for blind people. Just as sighted people read print, Braille is the only viable way of reading and writing and participating fully in society for blind people. And you probably won't believe this, but less than 10% of blind children in this country are being taught Braille in our schools. And I don't want to really bring a down note, but last time we looked at the statistics, less than 5% of blind children in Baltimore City schools are being taught Braille. Now, we don't have time to talk about all of the reasons that exists, just that there's a crisis, and we're trying to do something about it from Baltimore. So, in 2008, we innovated the Braille Enrichment for Literacy and Learning program, the BELL program we call it, which is a 2-week intensive program to train young blind children in the Braille code and to empower their parents to know how to deal with the education system to make sure that they get the educational services and the supports that they need to compete on terms of equality in the schools. And the BELL program that started right here in Baltimore is now this summer being taught in 26 other states and is being taught in multiple locations in that state. And our Bell program here in Baltimore continues, and I actually have a certain affinity to it. In 2008, when we started the program, we thought it was a great thing, but 2 years later, my daughter Oriana was born. Oriana has the same eye condition that I have. She's legally blind, and without the Bell program, she wouldn't have the opportunity to have an early start in Braille literacy. So what we're doing here is personal, and it makes a difference. And we are now empowering a new generation of blind kids with the tools to be literate in a way that we haven't seen in almost 3 decades. And that's happening because of our work right here in Baltimore. Another important thing that we've spearheaded in education over the last decade is inspiring and engaging blind young people in science, technology, engineering, and math. We started this effort by using the local partnerships that we had right here from Baltimore. So we reached out to the folks at NASA, and we reached out to the folks at Johns Hopkins, and we reached out to the folks at Applied Physics Laboratory. We found some of the most passionate folks interested in science, technology, engineering, and math. And we said, we have a simple formula. What would you do to inspire and engage kids in these subjects? Don't worry about the fact that they're blind, because we know what to do about that. And if you ask the question, what would you do with blind kids? They come up with some boring science. But if you say, what would you do to inspire and engage kids in science? Well, what the folks at NASA say? Well, we launch rockets. We said, great, let's launch some rockets. So we put together the first ever sounding rocket program. Actually, it was something that NASA had wanted to do with all kids. We innovated it with blind kids, and we took a group of a dozen blind kids the first summer down to the Wallops Flight Facility on the Eastern Shore, and blind kids launched a rocket. Now, the parachute didn't work quite well the first year, but that's part of a rocket project, right? You have to have the opportunity to fail. So people with disabilities are so protected, they never get the lessons that come from failing. And since that time, we've been innovating science programs with the Maryland Science Center, Chesapeake Bay Foundation, other partners in the area, and we are now seeing this generation of blind youth popping up all over the country in engineering jobs at the FBI or at Northrop Grumman or Lockheed Martin, or in PhD programs in chemistry, because we believed in creating opportunities for these kids, and we empowered them with blind mentors. And it's interesting, our first summer, we got the best blind teachers we could find to be blind mentors. And we said, now what's something that everybody does in science that we never get to do? Well, dissection. It's when you talk about giving a blind person a knife, everybody runs away. We got some of the best blind educators we could find, including myself. None of us had ever done a dissection. So we went over and we got somebody from the Baltimore City Community College who we knew, and we said, we need something to cut up. And sorry, I think the mayor's still eating. Sorry about that. So I won't go into too many details, except to say, we started by teaching ourselves these techniques, and then we passed it on to the next generation. And I can tell you, there's a lot of dogfish sharks that have been cut up all over the country because of the work we started 11 years ago. And that's just one example of what we've done. And our National Center for Blind Youth and Science initiative now has sparked efforts all across the country that are expanding opportunities for blind people in science, technology, engineering, and math. And in 1 week, we're going to have our newest program, which is the first time we've developed an engineering program that's going to be at the leading edge of creating standards that's happening right here from the University of Maryland to create an engineering design advanced placement course. And blind students are going to be, again, at the forefront of that effort because of our work, because we believe in the capacity of blind people. Technology development is the other thing I wanted to mention. Through our Jernigan Institute, we have innovated technologies that aren't meant to help mitigate blindness, but are meant to help solve the problem of access to information. We knew that one of the biggest problems we have is getting access to information. So 10 years ago, we created a company that we spun off here from Baltimore to create the next generation reading machines for the blind. And that technology is now on an app on my iPhone in my pocket and is dramatically less expensive than it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, this technology would have cost you $3,500. Now, it's down to the cost of an iPhone and a $99 mobile application that can give you access to any piece of print anywhere in the world, and with the technology, if you want, we can translate it into other languages. And the councilman will attest to it because I gave him a demonstration earlier. But we've done more than that, right? Because we think there's more to be done. And Luann alluded to this. We believe that there are opportunities to expand the horizons for blind people. So we wondered what it was that blind people couldn't do and why they couldn't do it. And when we sit around, a lot of times one of the things that we've said is, well, blind people can do everything, but we can't drive. So we tackled that. And in 2011, I drove a Ford Escape on the Daytona International Speedway without any assistance from any sighted folks, using non-visual interface technology that we developed through partnerships through our Jernigan Institute right here in Baltimore. And in fact, we drove that car on the streets of Baltimore around our building in 2011. I always hoped that we could have tried to get it into the Grand Prix when it was here, but
When it comes back.
we have built a car that blind people can drive. And most people say, that's crazy. But you know, it comes back to expectations. And we believe that if we can dream it, we can build it. And we know that the people we're talking about have capacity. And that's why we also know that there's still more work to be done right here on the anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Because we know that people with disabilities face a staggering unemployment rate. And that in many parts of this country, people with disabilities are still being paid less than the minimum wage. And that's because it's legal under federal law. We need to change that. And the tide is going that way. We know in our universities that technology is being implemented every day that does not include the tools that it needs to be accessible. And that means our students are being shut out of classes. They may have the physical access to the class, but because the class is dependent on using Google Docs or other technologies that are not accessible, they can't fully participate. We need to do something about that. And we know that as we get into the 21st century and more blind people want to uphold their duty to be parents and active members of their families, that our social agencies and sometimes the courts are taking children away from blind parents simply because of their misconceptions about blindness. Just a couple of years ago, we had a case that we supported right here in Baltimore City, where a father had his daughter taken away because the social service agency had no clue how a blind dad was going to take care of his daughter. And they didn't come to us right there in South Baltimore. We could have told them. They took the daughter away, and it took us 6 months. 6 months that father and daughter will never get back. So we got a law passed in Maryland that is meant to alleviate that problem. But that problem still exists in many parts of this country. And there are many, many things that I could talk about in the education realm where we haven't yet even scratched the surface of creating real opportunities for blind kids to excel in our public schools. But the great news is, you're here, and we're here to stay. And we're prepared to continue to do the work. And in fact, we're filled with a lot of hope and determination based on what we see happening with disability here in this town, and that we're a part of the conversation about how to raise expectations, how to bring more resources to this community so that we can continue to innovate opportunities that have an impact right here in Baltimore City, but that provide leadership for the rest of the nation. So I hope that each and every one of you will continue to be a partner with the National Federation of the Blind, that you will see the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act as a time to celebrate, but as a time to recommit ourselves to full equality for people with disabilities. I believe that we can make Baltimore one of the greatest places for blind people to be parents, to raise families, to be employed. And I know that this commission is helping to fulfill that vision. And I want to extend my appreciation again to all of you and to our mayor for being interested and invested in making sure that people with disabilities are an active and ever-growing part of our community. I look forward to the future where we have more people with disabilities in our government management. Not trying to send the mayor away, but we need more elected people with disabilities. We need to work on that. But that we have leadership in this room that believes in the capacity of people with disabilities is important. And I want you to know that we're right there with you, and we love having Baltimore be our home for changing opportunities for people who are blind all around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mark. I think between the National Federation of the Blind, Mayor Rawlings Blake, and the Mayor's Commission on Disabilities, the future of Baltimore is a place where people with disabilities are welcomed, where they can have jobs, where they can get great education is very bright. So thank you very much. Now it's time to continue and celebrate the accomplishments that the Mayor's Commission on Disability made this year. I'm going to ask each committee to report on 2 or 3 of the activities that they completed this year. And we will start with the Access Committee, please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
The Access Committee had a very busy year. In addition to visiting and evaluating a number of buildings for accessibility compliance, we also embarked on a number of collaborative projects as well, and I'm just going to mention 2 to you today. The first one is that in the fall of last year, we partnered with the Maryland Disabilities Forum to sponsor the 4th Gubernatorial Candidates Forum at the National Federation of the Blind. And then I also wanted to mention my personal favorite, which is on October 4th last year. We partnered with the Global Abilities Foundation, the Kennedy Krieger Institute, and the Baltimore Department of Recreation and Parks in putting on our first annual Rec Fest 2014, which was a day of adapted sports, fun, games, music, and education for over 200 youngsters and young of heart at Patterson Park.
Thank you very much, Access Committee. The next committee is Emergency Preparedness.
Good afternoon. Captain Douglas, Baltimore Police Department, Emergency Preparedness. And on March 6, 2015, we embarked upon Train the Trainer. Presentation occurred at the presentation was regarding the barriers in communication with deaf and hard of hearing. The presentation and training was given by Professor Jody Cripps from Towson University. And we were trying to make sure that we had people who were trained in emergency preparedness to present that also. The second accomplishment was on March 22nd, the committee partnered with the Baltimore Region Urban Area Security Initiative for a conference on learning what to do and when to do it. An emergency preparedness town hall for people with disabilities at Towson State University also. And on May 27th, Lieutenant Colonel Russell and I gave a presentation to the commission in reference to community policing and the recent unrest in Baltimore.
Thank you very much. Next committee is Employment Committee.
Some of the things basically go to our committee to ensure that, to to ensure that citizens of Baltimore rights are being protected, individuals with disabilities are protected as they apply for employment in Baltimore City. One of the things that the committee looked at is we work with the Department of Human Resources to try to collaborate and get all of the city agency HRs together and come up with a marketing plan to promote hiring of disabilities, individuals with disabilities. In doing so, we're also looking at creating a database where we can track that information, and with the help of DOORS, we will be able to achieve that probably next year.
Thank you. Can we hear next from the Transportation Committee, please?
Good afternoon. The Transportation Committee successfully had a Parking Education and Enforcement Day in which 50 citizens were interacted with the Baltimore City Police, the Motor Vehicle Administration, and other agencies, and it generated $4,684 of revenue for the city. So we're here to help the city. We also worked with Project Space, which is an amazing program that the Parking Authority is heading up, but we partnered with them, and now more spaces are available in the downtown area for people with disabilities. And lastly, we've been working with MTA and the Mobility Administration to improve their systems. They've not been doing as well, and we're working with the Citizens Advisory on Accessible Transportation to work on a plan to improve MTA's mobility service. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And can we hear from the Legislative Committee, please?
Good afternoon. I'm Vic Turbola. The Legislative Committee had a busy year. This year we always have two goals. One of them is to make sure Nolly is very involved down in the General Assembly. Our other goal is to make sure that we support some bills that would have an impact on the lives of people with disabilities. This year we tracked 42 bills down in Annapolis. We ended up writing 16 pieces of testimony, and 7 of those bills actually were adopted, so that's a very nice thing. The other 9 weren't adopted, but they weren't rejected either. They just held up the committee, so we thought that was a good thing too. The legislation is always a mixed bag that passes, but just as a nod to our speaker and our chairman, one of the bills that we supported that was adopted helped kids with disabilities get mobility training, essentially allowing them to maneuver better, get instruction on how to maneuver better at schools, as well as homes and perhaps in their offices as well.
Thank you. And finally, we'll hear from Commission Development.
Nolly Wood, I'll speak for Commission. Oh, sure, okay.
Luann, before you pass the Legislative Committee, can I just make a comment?
Sure, absolutely.
And I should have mentioned I tried to mention to Victor before. I know you tracked legislation in Annapolis, but are you aware about the new voting machine legislation? Did you understand? I was at a meeting last night where Armstead Jones, the chairman of the election board, mentioned that next election, our mayoral election and presidential election next year, they're going to be using paper ballots. I don't know if Nolly and you all have been aware of that, but I don't know how the presentation last night from the Central Committee, they didn't seem to be these new voting apparatus did not seem to be as friendly to those with sight challenges. I don't know if you're aware of that yet, and maybe the commission in a future meeting should have the election board come in and explain how the new machines are going to be able to be easily accessed by those with a vision impairment.
Actually, the National Federation of the Blind was involved with the selection process. They did select that machine. Being that it is a brand new machine, an outreach program is planned, and I think that's an excellent suggestion that we should have the City Board of Election representative come here and show how the machine operates. It does have an audio ballot, as you know, all the previous accessible machine had. So yeah, definitely a large outreach program is certainly not unreasonable.
So reporting on the commission development accomplishments, we just wanted to share that we did vet and encourage the addition of 3 commission members, and we have representation, thank you. We have representation from all city council districts with the exception of Council 10, 12, and 13. And other responsibilities of the commission include the dissemination of meeting minutes and the administrative tasks for the commission. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Once again, we are very honored and certainly pleased to have in attendance to help us celebrate our accomplishments, Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake. Mayor Rawlings-Blake has been a very great supporter of the Mayor's Commission on Disabilities. She's a big supporter of increasing the number of people with disabilities in Baltimore City, providing them employment opportunities, providing them educational opportunities, and we are very pleased to have her with us and to share her thoughts on our accomplishments and set some challenges for the future, hopefully. Mayor Rawlings-Blake.
No, they're getting it. You get this too, right? Yeah, he gets it too. Yeah, thank you. So first I want to thank the Hilton for again being a great host and serving a wonderful lunch. I don't know about you, but I enjoyed it until our keynote speaker started talking about the dissection. I was having a lovely lunch. But no, I really do want to thank the Hilton, and I know that Joe had to leave, but I also want to thank Hopkins for the sponsorship as well. You know, I think we forget sometimes how blessed we are in Baltimore to have such incredible institutions that are so supportive across so many levels. You know, whether it's, you know, just the sheer number of employment opportunities to the philanthropy, the volunteer hours, all of those things. So, you know, it's not lost on me that we have such great partners. So as we celebrate the 25th anniversary of American with Disabilities Act this week, I think it's important that we all, and I say we, the members of the commission, people in government, all of us, recommit ourselves to offering greater freedom of access for those people living with disabilities and their families. As many of you know, as Ms. Blake mentioned, a goal of mine is to grow our city. And you know, I feel like the disability community has a great it could have a great role in, you know, claiming a percentage. You want to, you know, how many of these 10,000 families do you want to be people living with disabilities? I encourage you to take it on as a challenge and look for ways that we can attract and retain families living with disabilities. And I think that, you know, part of it is attracting new families, and a bigger part of it is giving those residents who are already here more reasons to stay. And we do that by making our city safer, stronger, and a place for all of our residents equally. I want to thank the hard work of the Mayor's Commission on Disabilities for making such a big difference in the lives of people in Baltimore living with disabilities. I want to thank you for your hard work. You're one of the hardest working, if not the hardest working commission that we have in the city. And because of your commitment, your compassion, and your capacity, we're seeing real progress when it comes to leveling the playing field for people living with disabilities. So I want to thank you for your amazing work. I want to thank our keynote speaker again. Thank you for your inspiring words and for your continued investment in our city. Yeah, Baltimore is stronger, and I just want to backtrack as well as say I'm glad I didn't know when you were out on the street driving, because things might have turned out differently with a little ticket. Do you have a license?
No. But on the other hand, let me say, 100% of accidents are caused by sighted drivers.
I love it. You got me. No, but I am really blown away by the technology that gives people living with disability the chance to live full lives. I'm sitting here looking at your technology that you're working with today, and I think about all of the adaptive technologies that we have, and adaptive, whether it's construction and things like that. And we've just really come a long way. And because we have such thoughtful people like the members of the commission, I just think the sky is the limit. So again, I want to thank you for all of your efforts. We know that because of the progress you're making, that we can do more to improve access to employment, access to social services, facilities, the city-owned facilities and privately owned facilities throughout the city and the region. Again, when I was listening to the statistics around Braille education, around the unemployment rate for people living with disabilities, I think it's very clear that we have a lot more work to do. And I would love to be here next year talking about how we have improved access to employment, even how we created more jobs. Sometimes it's fighting for a piece of the pie, and sometimes it's baking a new pie. And I would love to be able to report on that as well. So again, thank you so much for all of your hard work.
Now, Madam Mayor, if you could join us so we could give the award to our keynote speaker.
Follow my voice, please. My voice, face my voice, please. Here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Right toward the beam. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is for your leadership and the use of technology to advance opportunities for people with disabilities. Thank you. Oh, I'm still standing.
We'll recognize speakers from our co-chairs from our legislative committee. Could Jack Elam and Victor Turvilla come forward? Jack Elam and Victor Turvilla have been instrumental in moving forward for our legislative committee for a number of years. They've had challenges with regards to being able to develop new legislation and respond to testimony, and they've always met that challenge, especially during a critical time in terms of response time during the legislative session. So with that regard, also we want to recognize with that Councilman Kern and the other members of the committee that we want to recognize. Could the other members of the committee stand so we could join off us? And you want us to introduce them and say a few words?
Nolly, I need a picture. Hold on. Right towards me.
Okay.
Here we go. Ready? Happy. 3, 2, 1. Hold that. Don't move. Okay.
Levine of the Law Department. This is Carolyn Connick of Housing. And Dan Ewald of, I'm not quite certain what the association is. It's a hard-working committee, so we're very grateful to be recognized. But we realize all of you are hardworking, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, turn it back over to you. Close out.
All right, once again, I'd like to say thank you all so much for all the hard work that you've put in this year. I hope you enjoy your month off in August, and we'll be back in September to start again. Thank you very much again to our keynote speaker, Mark Riccobono, and of course to Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake. Thank you all so much. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a safe road.